Let's see. All right, guys, welcome back. You're getting a special treat because this is going to be coming out within, I don't know. We'll give it. This is the second one I'm recording today, so we're gonna have two back to back. I'll probably space them out a week. But we're two times in the state of Kansas, so that's a new one for us. We're setting all sorts of new trends today. But today we have a farmer from West Central Kansas joining us, Ben Kramer. I met Ben. Oh, I'd say I really met Ben in was that whatever year we went on the bus tour to North and South Dakota with Notes on the Plains. That was when I really kind of got to know him a little bit and kind of kept in contact since then. Like I said, he's a farmer from Western Kansas, and I'll let him kind of introduce himself, give you a little bit of context of where he's coming from and what he's about, and we'll go from there. So Ben, take it away.
Sure. First of all, who else you recorded it? Who am I up against? What's the competition here?
I talked to Jorge today.
I'm gonna have to bring my A game then. Okay, there we go. Oh. Yeah, Ben Kramer, Healy is where we're located at here in West Central Kansas, kind of in the Scott City area. I'm a fifth generation guy out here. We both sides of my dad's family moved out here in the 1880s, and been here ever since. And we all dry land farm. We don't do any irrigation. And then we do some livestock stuff. I've kind of turned that side of the business over to somebody else to kind of operate for me, but there's always been livestock on the operation, and we incorporate that into the farming side too, with some cover crops and and such. But the majority of it's still on native range. Um, been back since, let's see, I graduated high school in '97. Went off to school for 4 years. Then went and worked in the city for a couple of years and decided that wasn't my thing and didn't care for the city that much. So moved back home, got married uh, moved back in 2003, got married in 2004. Um, Started farming that same year, just kind of by accident. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and just kind of happened into it. I never really was my intention, I guess, maybe to come back, but kind of fell into it and worked out, and we've been here ever since. So started no-tilling in 2006, I believe it was. Started planting cover crops in 2012, but you can imagine how well that went.
Yeah.
Kansas. It wasn't great. Uh,
That's about like picking 1929 to put your money in the stock market, right?
right, right, a lot to say. So
Yeah.
being a glutton for punishment, I turned around and did it again in 13 in the spring where it still hadn't rained,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it did work again. So we took a couple of years off, and then uh, I think revisited that deal in I think we started up again maybe about 2015 when it started raining again. But
Right.
I've had varying success with that. We've had some wins and some losses, both with them, and certain depending on how you want to look at it, I guess. But been doing it off, pretty much steady ever since. Not every single acre, every single year, like maybe they do back east, but we try to squeeze it in the rotation, and we try to use it to eliminate fallow, I guess is what we're trying to do. And again, like I said, we've had varying degrees of success when it rains. Seems like average rainfall or better, it works for us pretty well. The years we get below average, it can cost us a little bit on the yield side of things. So maybe we pick it up somewhere else down the line. Kind of hard to quantify, but we think there's a net benefit from it. Started grazing them in probably about 2018, 19, somewhere in there. Um, Started with cattle. Um, Again, varying successes. When it stayed dry when they're out there, it worked great. If it got wet, we got just heavy enough soils out here. We fight some compaction and things like that with it. But we've since moved to sheep, and that seems to be working significantly better from the compaction standpoint. Um, the herders that run them, do a really good job of moving them when they need to be moved. We get them off if we need to. They're better at that than I ever was. That's
Yeah.
why it's working probably.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, we uh, mostly do wheat, milo, and corn. We pill around some other stuff a little bit, but that's the staples. And yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're at right now. We have spent the last few years maybe trying to focus on more of it from a business standpoint than we used to. We used to just be all about the agronomy and so on and so forth. And we went to Ranching for Profit 4 or 5 years ago, and that really kind of focused us in on maybe looking at it more as a business than we probably had in the past, which we should have been doing all along, but we weren't.
Right.
And so yeah, we formed some LLCs and did some things like that, and take a little bit different business approach to it than we used to. So
Right. Right. Where did you go to college at?
I went everywhere. I took classes in high school out of a couple junior colleges, and then I went to Fort Hays my first year. Um, Went to Washburn my second year. Tried to play a little baseball. That didn't work out very well, so I transferred to K State and finished up my last 2 years down there. So whenever I had to
Well,
have transcripts, I have five of them to track
right.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you started off strong. You kind of ended poorly.
Yeah, I liked Hayes. I enjoyed my year there. I thought I wanted to go try the baseball thing after taking a year off, and
Right.
but yeah,
What were you majoring in?
well, I used to change that about every time I moved too. I started in education, moved to business, and then finished up getting my degree in recreation and park administration. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then that's what I did when I was moved to Tonganoxie for about a
Oh,
year and
okay.
a half, and worked for their city rec commission there, and
Gotcha.
did that kind of stuff. Learned a lot about soccer, which I didn't know much
Yeah.
about. So yeah, and then met my wife, and she wasn't much of a city person either. So we decided we wanted to get back out in this part of the world. So
Was she from out west?
yeah, she's from Norton.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. I was gonna say, so you didn't have to trick her into moving out there?
No, she kind of knew what she was getting into, for better
Yeah.
or worse.
Yeah.
I was kicking her out going to law school when I first met her, and she reminds me of that every once in a while that I she thought she was going to be a lawyer. And
Oh, well, not quite.
no, no, I thought this probably worked out better, really.
Right, right. Yeah, probably. Probably. You're probably people probably don't cuss you near as much.
Well, it just depends.
Yeah.
Moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Well, no, that's interesting, but I mean, I guess it kind of it exposed you to some different things and
yeah,
um kind of gave you a bit of different perspective on how when you did come back, how you kind of wanted to approach things. I'm sure that if you would have just went in, if you would have went to college just to major in agronomy or whatever, that and with the full intention of coming back, I'm sure you would have had a very different path than what you ended up going down.
well, my dad's we've been here forever, but my grandpa's family was huge, and so the thing get split up a bunch of times over the years,
Right.
and it was just big enough for him to kind of scratch it out, and so I never really thought about it too much. And even when I moved back, that was our deals have always been separate. We never really farmed. I mean, we farmed together, but he had his business and I had mine, and um, he was always really open minded. He went to that first no-till conference with me in 2006, January 2006, and on the way home, we were going to have to update a bunch of equipment if we stayed in the tillage game, and we
Hmm.
decided let's just do it. And he was on board all the way. He's never balked at it, but I was getting to do it on my own acres, so
Right.
I got to make a lot of big mistakes on a small scale,
Right.
which was
Right.
which was valuable, really
Right.
looking back on it. And at the time, I didn't know if I liked it very much when I was only farming a couple hundred acres, but looking back on it, it really, I don't know if he did it on purpose necessarily or just by necessity, but um, it allowed me to learn a lot on a small scale.
Right.
So
Right. Was that No Till on the Plains in
yeah,
Solana at that time?
yeah,
Gotcha.
yep, still in
Gotcha.
Salina then.
Who were some of the speakers that time that kind of
Dwayne Beck was there. I remember that. He was the keynote guy. I don't know if it was that year. I think it was probably the next year Gabe Brown was there. So um, Paul Yassa went to one of his. He was talking on the equipment side of it. And that's when I first started going, it was a lot about the nuts and bolts of it.
right.
It was still new enough, and a lot of people were just starting to get into it. And
Hmm.
it's been interesting to watch it evolve. Over the past 15, 16 years of um, what the speakers and what folks seem to want to focus focus on with the education side of that. So
Right, right. Well, and for you guys just getting into it, you would have by having the introduction be Dwayne
mhm.
Beck and Paul Yassa, that's
Yeah,
probably a very good
that was
introduction
perfect.
because it was the I don't want to say the basics, the fundamentals. The
Yeah,
fundamentals. It was um, to put it to a baseball analogy. It was catching, throwing, hitting
yeah, yeah.
of
Well,
no
it
till
caught
and
that
how
just
to
right. We got lucky there for
right,
sure.
right,
Yeah,
and out in your part of the world, I'm sure no till was really just kind of starting to become much more prevalent, if that's a
yeah.
fair way to put it out there.
That's been an interesting evolution. Also, when
Yeah.
we first there was actually a few guys around doing it there in the that started in the '90s
Mm-hmm.
and stuck with it, and then about just a few years after we got into it, we started having the resistant cushions and things like that. And a lot of the guys, broke out the undercutters and the discs, and you understand why,
Yep.
um, for sure. And just have never really went back to it at least, 100%.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's actually not super prevalent in this area. I would
Right.
say
Yeah.
definitely the minority.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. For true absolute never till.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean the without a doubt, the dominant system for those people who aren't familiar with Western Kansas, the dominant system will be so you'll take your wheat crop off with a Shelbourne stripper header. That's pretty popular. That's almost
Pretty
across the
popular.
board.
Yeah.
That stubble will then sit there for a whole all summer. They'll usually a lot of guys will probably do a chemical fallow on it, and then they will
Yeah, two or three
plant.
times. Yeah.
Yep, yep, and then they will
Mhm.
plant usually just on broad. Most operations still I'd say is they plant milo into that wheat stubble, that standing wheat stubble. They'll no-till it into that. Take the milo off in the fall, and then come springtime, come out the sweeps.
Yep,
And the sweeps will start making trips across the field. And what do you say, 3 to 5 times usually on average, probably for sweeps.
probably. Yeah.
And then they will go back in with a either a shank air seeder or an old 1980s hoe drill pulled behind a brand new 2024 tractor with a 40, 50-year-old drill and seed their wheat
Yep.
clean-tailed with a shank drill. And that is a pretty darn successful
It's
system
it's a
and
tried and
grind.
true system for sure. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
It's proven out over several decades that works out pretty nice. My dad was actually still just wheat fallow wheat when I moved back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Even he had a cow herd, and that he
Hmm.
considered that his fall crop, and he didn't did very little milo or anything like that. It was so we even had a longer fallow period
Right.
yet when we were doing that. So
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a. I'm not gonna necessarily. It is that system. It might not actually economically be the most viable system, but it
certainly
does
not
lead.
anymore.
Yeah, but it does lead to some. They can grow some hellacious yielding crops
Sure.
in that system out there. I mean, guys, it's really. I mean, 60 bushel wheat isn't too hard to achieve out there, is it?
Now that's doable
In
for
a
sure.
decent, yeah, in a decent moisture year, average moisture year in that system. Um, Again, not saying it's the best economically or ecologically, but a
Yep.
lot of guys have stayed out on the land doing that system for a
That's
lot of
right.
years.
That's right. Did it? That's that has been around even longer than the other. But you're right. The others, and you're starting to see people push that a little bit more. Maybe they'll go um, corn, then Milo, and then the fallow, or
Right.
something like that. And all everybody's place is different. Everybody's environment's a little bit different. And, you got to do what works for you for sure.
Yep. Yep. I really think, I mean, I guess we'll kind of go off in the weeds here a little bit, but I really think part of what makes it so difficult for the long-term no-till in Western Kansas to work is because there is no broadleaf crop grown on any acres.
Yeah.
And so Mother Nature is constantly trying to put a broadleaf out there, usually in the form of kochia.
Yeah. Or
This
pigweeds now.
Yeah, yep, one of the
Amaranth.
two. Yep, yep. And it would just be and a lot of it's markets. that's what drives a lot of it is that the market demand is for corn, milo, and wheat. That's what the markets are out there for. That's what you guys can grow and market easily. Um, but I think crops like, I mean, I know there's been some research, like at what is it, the Tribune station that K-State has. I know there's been some research on putting peas into spring peas into the rotation.
Yeah.
Um, I know there used to be like you get into Wichita County. I don't know when it would have started. It went away in the late 80s, early 90s, but there's pinto beans. Lots of pinto beans used to
Yeah.
be
They still
grown.
do a
And
little of that out there. Yeah.
yep, yep.
I think mostly
Um,
under irrigation, but they still do some of that
right,
out there. Yeah.
right, yep. But and there used to be once upon a time there was a pretty good sunflower market.
Yeah.
Um, from the sounds of it, the sunflower market might be a decent market this year.
Yeah,
Talking to
maybe.
guys, but it's very. I really think that is one of the single biggest challenges in
Yeah.
that
Markets are one,
area.
and then U.S. farm policy.
Yes,
A lot
yes,
of what people
yes.
do, and
Yep,
for better or worse, that's that factors in. You're trying to make a living, right? You got to do what you got to
yep,
do.
yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how have you adopted? What kind of you mentioned a little bit, but what has kind of been your practice to get cover crops into your system, or maybe
Yeah.
some alternative crops, and where are you placing them kind of in your rotation? Get into that a little bit.
We played around with soybeans for a few years. Very first year I did them, put them in behind Milo. They made 50. I turned around, planted wheat into it. It made 60 right behind them. I thought I was the smartest guy to ever grace a tractor. And
Yeah.
then we have never replicated that again. But, you're right. Really wish we could find a good, consistent broadleaf to throw into the rotation. We do some of that when we plant the cover crops. We always add some broadleaf to it. We love sunflowers. And, sunflowers as a crop is something we can grow. It's just getting them to markets a little bit
Yes.
of an issue. And so yeah, so that we've mostly used the cover crops, like I said, to bridge that fallow period as much as we can. Try to go in. When we first started 12 and 13, I went in with oats and some other things, an oat type blend. And of course, nothing worked in those 2 years, but um, we struggled a little bit with oats just in general. Just get a little too warm too quick, and they just never seem to amount to a lot. They can, but it
Hmm.
seems to be a little bit. They're not consistent for us, and so when we come back after those first 2 years, took a couple of years off, then come back, we started doing warm season stuff and trying to get in as early as we can. Hopefully mid May, give or take. Um, and then we're using a lot of forage sorghum, sunflowers, millets. Um, I like buckwheat, usually some radishes, maybe some oats in that mix from time to time, and we'll let that grow until either we'll graze it, or if we're just going to terminate it, maybe about the middle of August, we'll go in there and terminate that chemically and then try to get back to weed. Is usually the plan. I mean, we've done it lots of different ways. We've let it go until it freezes and then graze it in the winter time, which works okay. My son prefers that because the pheasants like that, and so he goes out and hunts pheasants in it all winter long. He's a big fan of that rotation.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, we've tried some different stuff, but we've found that it seems like we have the most success with warm season blends for the most part.
So would you
And
be do?
our native prairies show us that to a certain extent. We're definitely warm season grass dominant in
Hmm.
this area. And, um,
Would you are you doing those warm seasons after like either the next spring after corn or milo? Is that
yeah,
where you're putting those in?
yeah,
Okay,
we'll
gotcha.
leave it. And now with the sheep, we're grazing a lot of those corn and milo stalks. Hopefully fairly lightly.
Right.
Like I said, those guys, took a little while to get them dialed in. They never grazed stalks before, but um, boy, once they figured it out, they really did a pretty nice job with it. And we just have to be careful. And anybody that's a livestock guy, we have a tendency to always want to take a little more than maybe we should. And so that's something we're always trying to be really careful about. Is, you know, cover kind of makes this system work for us. We got to keep that ground covered as much as we can. And it hasn't exactly been an abundance of rain out here the last several years. So we really try to knock that back, be as conservative with it as we can. But um, that's our way of getting some livestock on the ground. And so that's what we do. But yeah, then we'll come in May, typically, and plant some warm season stuff. And we don't do it on every acre. You know, we do way more cash cropping than we do cover crops for sure.
Hmm.
It's been a tough one to make money on, and so we kind of got out of wheat for the most part for a few years, but you know that's causing us some rotational issues now too, and so we're trying to get back into some more wheat, not necessarily because it's going to make us any money, but it kind of makes everything else work a little bit better. So,
Right.
but we I have done it. You know, we have gone into our wheat stubble and planted a cover crop. There's certain situations where I think that's okay for us. It works okay for us, but generally speaking, that's messing with my moneymaker because that's the the Milo into the wheat stubble or corn, either one. Mostly, especially the Milo is that's the one that makes us money year in and year out, and I'm really hesitant to mess with that one. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we have done some of it. You know, when you have a really good wheat crop and you got that big stripper stubble, you know, you can have issues with that. One, you know, being hard to drill into or plan into the next year. Or two, if you get a little bit wet, it rotting off the ground and drifting up in big piles, which is really hard to get through in the
Right.
spring.
Right.
We have in the occasion that happens, which has been a while, planting a cover crop into that and getting at least some growth helps hold that in place.
Right.
And so they seem, you know, that seems to work for us all right when that happens. But it's been a while since we've had that kind of wheat straw. So
Right. Right. Well, well, and I mean, and you're not the only one that I've heard say it, but yeah, how that many times in at least for sure the western third of the state, uh, you can do more harm than good by going in and running a drill through that
absolutely.
wheat straw, and because you'll cut it loose. My thought has been, have you ever played around with instead of because what's your drill set up on 10-inch spacing?
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about going in and just leaving one gang up and only
Yeah,
planting in
you
20
could
inch
do that for
spacing?
sure. You know, we don't have, you know, it stays put. First thing you got to make sure of is you got enough moisture to get it
Right,
germ.
right,
You know, we don't if we don't have enough moisture to make it, we don't do it. No,
right. Yep.
it's the wheat stubble or
Anything
our summer
else? Right,
crop. If we can't get it up, we don't do it for that exact reason. You
right,
know, we've had that happen where you drill it, you loosen up that residue, you don't grow anything. First big wind, you just cost yourself way more than you ever were going to help. So,
right.
um, but yeah, you know, that's not a bad way to look at it for sure. Is going in. Um, I know a couple guys that do it that way. They don't do it on tens, and I'm not sure that's probably not. We haven't done it cover crops. I don't think I've ever done it with a gang up. We do Milo that way, and soybeans we've done them that way. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know if I've ever done that with a cover crop. It's not a bad idea to maybe take a look at.
Because yeah, like I mean, and that's the thing is, uh, because I noticed this last year. I feel like, especially with some some younger producers or producers that 'cause I mean, like you said, once upon a time there wasn't fall crops growing in a lot of parts of the state. I mean, even where I'm at, it used to be once upon a time. I mean, even when we first moved here, there was a lot of wheat on wheat on wheat on wheat on wheat. I mean, they didn't grow fall crops.
Yep.
And what made fall crops successful was because they came out with Paraquat or Roundup, and you could keep that wheat stubble clean and
Mhm.
no-till your fall crop into it.
Yep.
Um, and I noticed this last year there was so many acres of ground that was going to fall crop that was worked up, and it didn't matter what part of the state you were in. It just and it's one of those things. I'm not saying they didn't have a crop, but that is a it was a cultural practice that didn't be that you just didn't plant a fall crop until you had wheat stubble. I
Yep.
mean, it just wasn't successful, and it's one of those cultural practices that I feel like has gotten lost because, well, we can grow fall crops. Well, actually, didn't used to happen. It
Yeah.
didn't used to happen because you had to use a piece
Yep.
of tillage, and when you do lose, so what I'm getting at is that when you have one of those wind events and you lose all that cover, well, probably the only really successful crop you're going to grow in that kind of environment in the western third of the state is probably going to be wheat
Yeah.
because Milo isn't. I mean, Milo is so just. I mean, out in your neck of the woods, it's hard to grow a successful milo crop if you don't have that ground cover and you're
It
not
helps
storing
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
And
fairly well adapted for Milo. In this area, it's been a really good crop for us. Like I said, hands down, year in, year out, it's the most profitable one for
right,
us,
right,
almost without exception.
right,
But yeah, all ground cover, retaining that little dab of moisture you make just a little bit goes a long ways. And definitely you don't want bare ground if you can help it, for
right,
sure.
right.
Yeah, if you're gonna plant Milo or corn, either one. So
Right. Because yeah, I mean you can go just tell but you can go and look at a field that was worked that they planted Milo into versus a
mhm.
field that wasn't. And there's a difference in how much residue you grew that plant put on that year. Because if it was no tilled in, there's just more of a plant there. More residue left over versus if it was put into a clean tilled field and and it just starts compounding on itself. Just compounds and
Well, it
uh,
does because yeah, crop failures will compound each other. One will lead to another if you're not careful, for
right,
sure. When
right,
especially you get into a prolonged drought, which,
right,
this one we've been in the last few years is the longest one we've had, sustained one we've had since I've been back. Um, and yeah, it makes a difference. You need to set yourself up for some success, or it'll snowball on you for
right,
sure. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, I mean it just takes so long for you guys to catch up out in that part of the
Mhm.
world. I mean, you just yeah. When you're behind the eight ball, it takes time to get ahead of it as far as
Yeah.
moisture. You got to keep on getting successful years of
Yeah.
moisture basically. And so yeah,
Yeah.
nope, that's yeah, like I said, and people not from that part of the country, they don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we all have our challenges, and that water is ours most of the time.
right,
We have the decent soils out here. We're capable of growing some pretty good crops, but water's definitely the limiting factor more times than not. Yeah.
right, right. So what was really the was it just an equipment thing that was kind of the driver of switching over to no-till, or was it economics, or what was like did you what was your aha moment to say this is what we need to try?
Well, both. It made sense to my dad and I both. It made sense. Water. I mean, water's the issue, right? I mean, that's the thing. So it makes sense. You don't open that ground up. You have less evaporation. It made sense there. And the equipment deal was part of it because we were either going to have to go upgrade tractors and undercutters and all that kind of stuff, or we could go buy no-till drill and get after it. So that's what we have a sprayer. I think we had a kind of a homemade sprayer we used, but we went out and bought a actual sprayer and a no-till drill, and that's what we started with. We used the old 5020 existing tractor we were still my dad was still using when I
Hmm.
come back and went to work, and pretty much stuck with it. I'm not gonna say we've never drug out a disc or a ripper or something. We get high traffic areas every once in a while. We got to do something with because they just they don't grow anything, or you cut a 2 foot rut in a pond hole or something like that. You gotta fix that. So
Hmm.
and we had a piece. Was that two? It was 22. The driest dry year, yes, it was 22. Up next to a pasture, some light soil, and it just had sodded in with windmill grass, and we just weren't growing anything. And
Hmm.
I tried all the things that I thought I had in my toolbox, and nothing worked. And so we finally we worked. It was about a 40-acre piece and 45-acre piece, and we killed it. I mean, it was dead. It didn't rain for one. Worked it twice. 'Cause the first time it come up in chunks of sod like
Right,
this.
right, yep.
Um, and then this year it come back exactly like it was before. So we gained absolutely nothing even by working it. And now we just got a rough piece of ground we got to start over on. So that was a little bit disappointing. But I we use everything in the toolbox from time to time. We don't do tillage on a large scale ever, but we'll do a spot here and there that needs addressed for some particular reason. I mean, you can't sit there and beat your head against the wall all the time. You got to try to make a living at this. So,
Right.
we talk about this on the no-till board all the time. No-till kind of got a little bit of a rap, I think, when they first got going about this is the only way to do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're stupid. And I think that was, I don't know if it was like that or not. That was the perception, I think,
Hmm.
from a lot of folks. So we talk about it all the time now. You got to meet folks where they're at. Everybody's situation's different. I don't have to pay your bills with my money, and you don't have to pay mine with yours. So
Right.
it's not our place to tell anybody how to do anything. Just this is what's working for us, and this is some things to take a look at, and you do with that what you will. It's uh, by no means do I have any intention to try to tell anybody how to do it. And I don't. I'm pretty sure I don't have it figured out. So
Right. What was the spark to get you to start looking at your soil? Because there's lots of guys that started doing no-till because of the moisture, but
yeah,
that don't mean they actually ever take a shovel out and go and take a look and see what's
you know,
happening.
that's a really good question. I've always kind of took a shovel and looked at stuff because I was interested in that kind of stuff. But we talked about the evolution of the No Till on the Plains conference. It was all equipment and nuts and bolts and stuff when we started, and then it started to get into the biological side, right? I mean, the cover crops and the um, you had the Jill Clappertons and people like that coming in and talking, and I dodged those. I'd look at those in the schedule. That, that doesn't do me any good. Go tell me how to do it. Right? And I piddled around and didn't go to those for 3 or 4 years, and then
Hmm.
one day I just kind of kicked in. Maybe you got to check that out. I'm like, huh? Yeah, I've been dropping the ball here for a long time. So yeah, it's like I said, you focus on what your immediate needs are, right? I mean,
Right.
this is what I need to get to where I need to be in the near term, and we don't always look at it as a long term solution. And when I first started, we organic matter and stuff like that. I never paid too close attention to it. We weren't soil sampling, we weren't doing any of that kind of stuff, and now it's something we pay quite a lot closer attention to. And we do some stuff with biologicals and trying to cut back our fertilizer and chemical use because we think it's causing us some other issues. And so it's just an evolution. I mean, you just do what you got to do to survive from year to year. It seems like. But yeah, if you have the chance to step back and take a look at it from a little broader view, you'll save yourself some years. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Right. That's what they all say anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to it for sure. It's just not. It's easier said than done, right? You got to keep the
Right.
wolves. So
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta survive the 365 days that are ahead of you before you can worry about the
yeah,
4 years from now type of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
yeah, it's a balancing act as far as
Taking a step back. I learned this, so I guess from Ranching for Profit, probably more so than anything else. But stepping back and looking at the broader scheme and acting more like a business owner, um, you know, instead of us as farmers. I mean, typically speaking, I mean, bigger farms are different. Maybe they have employees and such, but for the most part, we're not like that, and we're in the business all the time, right? We're
right,
building fleets, we're sitting in a tractor, we're doing all those things instead of being a CEO of a business and taking the time to step back and take a look at that. And that made a big difference for us. All of a sudden, you're looking at it holistically, maybe more so than we were before. And that helped us tremendously. Other
right,
people may be way ahead of that curve than I was, but I never took a business class. I majored in business, but I was still taking gen eds at that time, and mainly
right,
just because they made me declare a major is why I called it
right,
business. I took some management classes, never took a single business class in my life, and so I've had to kind of learn that along the way. And treating your business like a business certainly helped us a lot.
right,
Anyways,
right. Well, and with and with farming, it's complicated with whether it's farming or ranching, either one, because yes, you have to. All of us would be better off if we were better at the numbers and better at the business end of it. But an agricultural enterprise isn't just units in, units out, or it shouldn't be just units in, units out, because it's we're managing a living, breathing ecological system.
sure.
And um, And when we ignore that, we run into problems as far as whether it's resistant pigweeds or kochia, or we get stuck in a well, corn pays, so we're just going to go corn and corn. Well, guess
Yep.
what? That's going to lead to ecological problems that are going to cost us dollars, and so yeah, it's
Done
very
all those things.
challenging.
Done them all. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, and it's hard to be because there's going to be people that are really good ecological managers and very poor or just not the greatest business guys. And there's going to be
Sure.
guys that are really good at the business, but they totally ignore the ecological side of it. And so
Yep.
trying to balance those,
It's certainly a dynamic system, and how I've started to approach it the last few years is I focus on the things that I feel like I'm good at. I mean, I don't know
right,
that I am, but I feel like I am, or
right,
and the things that I enjoy, you
yep,
know, and then we hire some of the other stuff out, and
right,
there's only so many hours in the day, and we employ an accountant and an attorney, and and I use them fairly regularly for different things, and um, we just we've been hiring our planting done the last 3 or 4 years. Just I got kids that are into sports, and I got daughter this year. It's first year she's playing softball at college. So that time of year, we're chasing kids around baseball, softball, whatever, all
right,
summer long, spring, and so we chose to spend our time there, and we just started hiring some stuff done. We did have a little custom cutting done. We don't do it all ourselves anymore. And
right, right,
that's also freed up time for me to work on the business more too.
right,
And it's
right,
been pretty valuable.
right, right. Well, and speak to that a little bit as far as collaboration and how collaboration has helped not only has helped your business. Um, you can talk a little bit about the livestock side because again, it's a business side of it, but there's also being ecological benefit to it. But you're collaborating with other people to
Yeah,
accomplish these things that are benefiting
sure.
you and benefiting them too.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, if it's not benefiting everybody, it don't last very long. That's for sure. Um, yeah, we've done a fair amount of it. From sharing equipment with neighbors, done that. Hiring custom work done, we've done that. I've bought land with, Formed LLC, bought land with somebody before. These are all things we've got in and out of over the years. But you learn as you go. They've all started well and ended okay. Nobody ever got mad at anybody. And before we started really even the first one, I don't know if I read this or somebody told me or whatever, but I said, if you're going to work with somebody else, two things that I remember sticking out was write the divorce first, so if it doesn't work out, everybody knows that this is what happens when it don't, and you go along your way, right? And
Right,
if, if it's not working for one person, it's not going to work at all. So you have that figured into it. And then the other thing that a friend of mine told me when we first started, we were sharing some equipment and stuff, and uh, his dad was a wise fella, and he had worked with his brother in a partnership for years and years, and he said what makes it work is if everybody does a little bit more than they think they have to, and then you know that gives you the opportunity to maybe not sit back and look, say the other guy's slacking, and if everybody
mhm,
does a little more than they think they need to, it seems to work out all right. So
right.
yeah, we've done all kinds of things, and I think a lot of value in that. And equipment's not getting any cheaper.
Yep.
It's getting bigger, but it's not getting any cheaper. And so why aren't we spreading that over more acres? Um, I said, me, what I rather spend my money on now than equipment, even though we still have equipment and just bought a combine and all kinds of stuff. But um, what uh, what I'm buying now instead of equipment more so is time. I want to spend my time doing some other things. Some of that's in the business, some of it's not, and I'd rather spend my money on time than I would equipment
Right.
anymore. So that's where I'm at in my business and my life right now. And beginning guys are going to be completely different. Guys that are 20 years older than me are going to be completely different. They're going to be different yet.
Right.
It's just kind of an evolution that you go through and over time. But that has allowed us to do some of the things with our kids and the other things that I was not doing when I was younger, for
Hmm.
sure. uh, to my looking back on was maybe not my brightest idea in the world, but it allowed us to do it now, maybe. So, give and takes on everything. But
Right. Right. Talk about the livestock a little bit.
yeah, so we did it for years. There've been cows on the place. Like I said, fifth generation. There always been cows on the place. They were mostly all really good cow guys. I was not, and I didn't enjoy it. Our personalities don't mesh real well. I never really enjoyed that part of the business, but it was something I was able to get into when I first come back because what's the first thing the farmer gives up when he gets
Right.
older is the
Right.
cows. Right? So
Yep.
I was able to get into that and grew it to a fairly sizable, for one guy, all he wanted, all this guy wanted for sure. And I never really enjoyed that side of it that much. Like I said, it was a means to an end, and it worked out well, and I'm glad we did it. And um, but we sold the cow herd in 21 and 22, right in that fall of 21, the spring of 22. Spread it over a couple of years there, and then we did custom stockers for 1 year, and then 22 we didn't graze a thing in 22 because it was so dry. But
Right.
since then, met up with um, Sage with this regen deal, and they do a lot of sheep, they do a lot of stuff. But that's his baby is the livestock stuff, and he been through all the he's been to I think about every single livestock there is out there, and very knowledgeable. He's um, got some sizable ranches in 4 or 5 different places, and they basically do it. I mean, I don't know if I 100% call it a lease, but essentially it works that way. I I lease them my ground for, and they pay me for it, and they do all the work,
Right.
which is great.
Right.
That part
Right.
I like.
Right.
Am I making as much money on it as I could if I did it all myself? No, but I'd rather spend my time doing other things and focusing on other things, and so um, I'm okay with that at this point.
Right.
It's working out well for us, and um, they're into the high stock density stuff. They run some stockers in the summertime, and I think Nick was probably moving them things at times. I think he's moving them 2 or 3 times a day, but for sure they were getting moved every day, except for
Right.
one little stretch where he had to go to his daughter's graduation. But um, same thing with the sheep. They got Peruvians, and they pretty well just live with those sheep and manage them. And if it rains a little bit, and I call them up and say, "Hey, we need to get them onto the grass today," and they do it. It's no
Right.
big deal for them. I mean, and then it's worked out really nice for us. It's getting done better than it was when I was doing it because I was stretched too thin
Right.
labor wise probably, and um, I I wouldn't always get them off when it got wet because I didn't want to, or had to be
Right.
gone or
Yep.
whatever. And they do. This is what they do. They're professional at it, and
Yep.
it's uh it's worked out all right so far. Don't see any
Well,
reason that'll change.
it'll be it'll be interesting to see if the longer you have them there, if the crop fields that you're getting them out on,
Yeah.
if you will start to maybe see a decrease in some weed pressure.
It'll be
Uh,
interesting to see. This is the second winter. Um, they graze, and the sheep, of course, they got them, like I said, they're moving them every day. And so
hmm
pretty good, they're pretty mobbed up, but the manure distribution with those sheep and those fields is spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't go out there with a spreader and do any better.
Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
it's even pelletized for you.
oh yeah, it is.
Slow,
Really,
slow release,
I was really
time
like,
release.
just from, the visual side of it, it really looks good,
Right.
but 1 year's too early to tell how that's going to work exactly, but
Right.
it looks to me like it could be a really, really positive thing. They didn't compact the ground like the cattle seem to do. Their hair all I think they got some wool sheep this year, but last year was all hair sheep. They weigh 100, 125 pounds.
hmm
Um, yeah, there's a lot of hooves out there, but it don't seem like we had near the issues with compaction in it and we got a little moisture last winter. We got,
Right. Right.
a couple of decent snows. They just get off when we need to get off, and then
Right.
they get back on, and we just didn't have too much trouble. So
Right.
it's just, it's just everything's dynamic, it's flexible, and you know, keeping everybody moving fast enough, is a little bit of the issue because is when you get into no-till, the longer you're into it, your residue just it goes faster.
Hmm.
You
Yep.
gotta
Yep.
you gotta be really careful about running too much of that through an animal too. You end up with some bare ground. So I
Right.
mean, turning over
Right.
manure is not necessarily a bad thing, but you got to be careful about the bare ground. And so
Right. Right.
it's something I harp on them probably more than they like me to about, but
Right. Right.
they do a really nice job with it, and they're very responsive when I ask them to do something. They do it and are willing to try, or we talk about it or whatever. But
For those that don't know, it's Sage Askins.
yeah,
What is it? Is it Ranching Regen? Is
it
that correct?
Regen LLC, I think, is
Okay.
what it is. Um,
Okay. Okay.
hope I got that right, Sage. If you ever watched this, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You
he's
can
from out in
find,
Wyoming.
yeah, you can find, he's been on, I think he's been on Ranching Reboot. I think he's been on Working Cows, and I think he's
Oh,
been
working cats,
on,
sure. Yeah,
I can't think of Jared Lumen's podcast. I think he's been on that. Maybe he
yeah.
hasn't, but
Herd Quitter. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think he may have been on both those.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. And
yeah.
at that, I had heard of him before through Ranching for Profit because
Okay, right.
he belonged in EL too. We did
Yeah,
different characters, but um, I listened to him on a podcast. That's when I thought, you know what, this might work out all right. So I
right,
reached out to him, and he
right,
comes on, and they were already doing something similar, more of a it's up in the Sandhills, Nebraska, not really the farm side of it, but the
right.
grazing. He had done this once before. This wasn't brand new to him, and actually maybe twice before. I think he got his home place and then another place in Wyoming, and then the one in Nebraska, and then us. And um, it just needs to be something that's at enough scale for him to justify the labor force. And we
Right.
had just enough, and he's got out here, and people see what's going on, and I think he's actually going to grow it a little bit to some around with some neighbors, and
Yeah, no, that's like I said, one of these days when I got a spare couple of hours, because I know that's what it's going to
that
be.
happens all the time, right? You always have a
Yeah,
spare couple
yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah. Because I know I know that's what it's going to take because it's going to be sheep, and I will swing by and we'll go take a look at it one of these days.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I definitely want to see it at that scale and kind of get an idea of what they're doing. Because yeah, I mean,
he runs them
yeah,
in groups of about 1,500.
right,
Uh,
right, yeah,
I think he's got two of them down, two bands of them down here right now. Um, like I said, one for sure is hair. The other one is I think he's got wool sheep in that bunch this
gotcha,
year,
gotcha.
or at least some of them. And
Well, once upon a time, Western Kansas was big wheat
sure,
pasture country for sheep.
yeah,
Back in the like 40s and 50s and stuff, it was not uncommon for sheep to come in from Colorado and graze wheat
sure,
pasture over the winter. And my
absolutely,
great grandpa had done that off and on back in the 50s and 40s and
absolutely.
50s. And I mean, so yeah, you're just getting back to Western Kansas roots. So
Yeah, no, you're right. One time there was a lot of them out here, and actually Gove County, which is the county just north of us, is might be the largest sheep producing county in the state. They have a lot of sheep up in that area, and
right.
several guys that do it. And,
And in your guys's in the Western, I've said this since I got into sheep. When I first got into sheep, was Western Kansas shouldn't probably have a whole lot of cow calf. If they're going to have cattle, it should be stockers, but otherwise it should be sheep production because of the variable in the rainfall and just the type of climate that it would be much better suited to running sheep
yeah,
um,
yeah.
than
I think, and we'll see. We're not going to do it on the farm ground probably because of our we fought the compaction in some places, but on the range we're doing both.
hmm
I like to think the little extra diversity there is going to be a good
Oh
thing.
yeah.
We'll
Yep.
see. They eat different things and different times, and
Right.
they're both a ruminant, but they act completely different. They're a
Oh
completely
yeah.
different. Sure.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
will eat her. This has always been the knock on sheep as well. They eat it to the dirt, and yeah, you let them, they sure as heck will.
Yep. Yep.
They're like a horse. They got lips. They can get down there and get it all.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so you just have to manage them. But
Right, right.
so far, it looks to me like if they're managed well, they fit really nice.
Oh yeah. Yep, yep. And because they can graze like that, that's why they can thrive in such harsh environments. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean they're a desert animal, I think, right? Originally,
yeah,
so
yeah.
they
Yep,
they don't drink
yep.
much water. He when there was snow on the ground, I don't even know if they haul water to them when there's snow on the ground. They just eat snow, and they're
Gotcha.
pretty thrifty critter.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what's been a failure for you? Besides
Oh,
2012,
how, how
well,
how
throw
how
those
many
out.
hours in the day do we have left in the
Right.
day?
What has been something that you thought, well, this will work and just fell flat
Didn't.
on its face? Yeah, just fell flat
Oh,
on its face.
soybeans. I had to beat my head against the wall and fail 3 or 4 times before I figured out that wasn't as smart as I thought I was. That didn't work out for us very good. The grazing the cover crops with um, when it got wet and we weren't able to get them off, and I got a couple of pieces of ground that haven't produced well in 4, 5, 6 years because I'm too stubborn to work them, and um, we compacted them, and we have some big issues with that, and it's something
Hmm.
we're still working through. We're trying some different things here and there, and I don't want to work it. Who knows? Maybe it'll come to that some point, but
Right,
that will be the last resort, I hope, if
right,
it comes to that. And I'm not 100% convinced that'll help more than it hurts, and so I haven't done it yet. But um, that's been a big one. Same way with the we went in. We actually started in the farm ground, and we went in and fenced and piped water across everything that's, I'll call it closely held, family held stuff that we knew we were going to be in control of for the foreseeable future. And then we went out and did the same thing in all the native range. I had it figured up here a while back. I'm probably going to get my numbers wrong, but we've done something like 25 miles of pipeline and I don't know, 75 miles of fence, probably in
right.
the last 6 years, 7 years, something like that. And uh, thinking that that's the way to go, and I still think it probably is. But like everything else, there's a learning curve
Right.
involved. When you get 250 pairs or 800 stalkers in one bunch, and you're wanting to move them. We first started, we were trying to move them twice a week. Um, that day that I got something else I need to go do today. I'm going to leave them one more day. You
Yep.
can't
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
You'll put it into
Yep.
a parking lot, you
Yeah.
know, and so it takes a significant amount more management. I don't know if it necessarily takes a ton more time, but it takes a lot more management, and probably a little bit more time depending on how you're doing it.
Hmm.
But uh, yeah, we failed at that for sure, in some places, and it's okay. It happens. It'll recover. You just got to give it, some of that stuff we've given, give it a year off. We just don't go back in it for a year or so,
Right.
or 8 months even sometimes. And so,
Maybe we shouldn't call these failures. These have been tough learning experiences.
yeah, I call it paying tuition. I've paid a lot of
Yeah.
tuition over the years,
Yeah.
way more than I ever did going to college. I know
Right.
that.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, it is. It's all a learning curve, and that's something else that's nice about um, the regenerative community, I guess I'll call it. That there's somebody out there who's tried it before, most of the time. Maybe
Right.
not in your area, but they've tried it before, and so you can reach out and talk to somebody and be like, "Hey, what'd you do here, or what do you do there?" And hopefully, maybe return the favor someday. Maybe we can all cut this learning curve down a little bit and pay a
Right.
little less tuition,
Right.
for sure. But yeah, I mean, uh, every single one of those water projects or fence projects we did a little bit different because we learned something.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we started off, we were putting a riser or a water point every 300 feet. And second time, next one, we went to 400 feet, then we went to 600 feet. And I think the last one we did one every 1,200 feet because that was all we learned that all we really needed. And
Right.
so, it's just one of them things. It's you learn as you go for sure.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. What what new ventures do you have would you like to try, or what new ideas, new projects, new let's crops, management practices, tools. Um,
We talked about it a little bit earlier. I really want to find a broadleaf that I can put into the rotation. If that's a cash crop or if that's something else. I haven't exactly figured out what or how to do that. We're fiddling around with raising cowpeas a couple of times. It's if you can find a market for them, that's not too bad. They fit our environment fairly
mhm.
well. They're drought tolerant. But yeah, I'd like to find. We got to do it. We're trying to get back into doing a better job of rotating. We got stuck in that rut of planting Milo on Milo, maybe 2 or 3 years in a row, and then corn, and then we kind of got out of the wheat, and the broadleaves had never been part of it, and we're learning that doesn't work as good as you would like it to. I mean,
Right,
economically, maybe it does on that particular year, but we pay the price for that down the road. It seems like at
right,
some point.
right,
And so we're trying to get back into doing a better job of rotating, getting more wheat back into the or some sort of cool season grass back into the system. And then I would like to really find a broadleaf outside of what we put in the cover crops. I mean, that's better than nothing, I
right,
think. Um, but and I love sunflowers. I really wish it was an easier market to get to.
right.
Now we have to take them. I think the closest crushing plant, anyways, is in Lamar, Colorado. That's 120, 150 miles, something like that. It's just not really plausible for us to do. Don't have the manpower to do it. Finding
Hmm.
finding a haul at that time of year is really tough. Um, every once in a while, when the local elevators will take it, you give up a little something to do that,
Right,
but
right.
that's not necessarily the end of the world. I'd like to think I know we can grow them. My
Oh
my
yeah, yeah.
my concern with them is, what do you do after them? What's the next crop after that? Because
Right,
they're going to get what's there, and
right,
that's
right,
why they work, and they aren't going to leave you much residue.
right, right.
None
Yeah,
of broadleaves really do. I mean,
right,
it's just when you're done with it, it's gone for the most part. So,
right. And you live, like I said, and again, what's your average precip? 16 or
oh,
18?
18 to 20 kind of
Yeah,
depends. What's average? I don't know anymore,
right,
but
right. And so it makes it challenging to want to attempt to do any kind of interseeding
yeah,
to
we have
try
not
and
done that.
right,
I you look at some of that stuff people are doing in other places, and I'm not sure you couldn't apply it here. You might, it's just like everything else. You just have to adapt it to fit what
right,
you do. You see the guys up in the I states that are doing wheat and then beans, interseeded in
right,
the same relaying or however you want to call it. And,
right, right,
maybe it's not wheat and beans, maybe it's wheat and cowpeas or whatever. I
right,
don't know.
right, right,
Like all things that I think are at least worth maybe trying once,
right,
twice.
right,
And
right. Yeah, well, you guys really just need I don't want to say an experiment station, but you need something out there, a place that guys are trying different things that it's okay if they fail. Like it's a place that it can be tried, and it shouldn't be on the responsibility of every farmer out there to risk their own dollars and their own money to learn
it's
these hard knocks.
just and most people understand this, but just a few miles makes a big difference.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, have a
yeah,
completely different climate, possibly a
right,
different soil type. I think in Kansas is, as you go west to east, it's basically every 15 miles you pick up an inch of rain.
right,
And
right, yeah, yeah,
so it don't take very long before it's a
right,
completely different animal. And so it really has to almost be on farm. I mean, regionals, I don't even know if that might be too far apart.
maybe like corridors, maybe by
Yeah.
two to three county type of thing, and
Yeah.
at least start to get some ideas of, well, this works as a like in sunflowers, because I mean sunflowers, there's no reason in the world we can't interseed with them as far as what's the word I'm looking for? Plant ecology.
Yeah.
It's chemic it's weed control. It's
Weed
usually
control is
is
one of them.
yeah, is what restricts us from doing a lot of this stuff, but it's what can we do that is competitive enough, that suppresses the weeds enough, but doesn't affect the cover crop or the cash crop. Um, and leaves us something growing there, or green or residue, something that when something like the sunflowers come off, it's not a barren wasteland underneath.
Yeah, it's a juggling act, I guess, so to speak.
Right,
It's
right,
very diverse, and Kansas is super diverse. I mean, even people talk about Western Kansas. Well, where Nick's boss is down there in
right.
Yucatan. Somebody up here at Colby, and that
Yeah,
those are two completely different environments.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
painting
mean,
aberration rates and all those things. I mean, it's
yep,
completely different animal.
yep.
So
Well, yeah, you can go from Nick to you to Bryce to Michael, totally different environments, each and every
every
one
one
of
of them.
you. Yeah,
Yep.
every one of them. And you all probably get within at max the difference amount of moisture to be 6 inches max.
Yeah. Probably
I
not even
mean,
under that. I mean, maybe
yeah,
between Nick and Michael, it would be about that. But
right, right. I mean, but you're going to farm differently than Bryce does, and Bryce is going to farm differently than Michael does, and Nick is going to farm differently than you guys. And I mean,
I
yeah,
know they're
and
all different soil types for the most
right,
part.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely, and different topographies.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
latitudes. I mean, it's just a lot of factors there.
yes, yeah, yeah. What about you're kind of well, I guess you're not super close to Goodland, but you're not far away. What about canola or camelina? Because
You
aren't
know,
aren't
I've looked into it a little bit. There were some guys here that tried winter canola. Oh, I'd say maybe 10 years ago. They tried it 3 years in a row, and it winter killed 2 of the 3 years. And so I think they've probably have better varieties. I'm sure that
right,
that's something
right.
that's getting better all the time. Um, but I've read even K-State's work on it, and they talk about that still being a little bit of an issue.
Hmm.
Management there, it's like you can't be too little, you can't be too big, you got to be
Right, right,
somewhere in the middle. And yeah, man, that a cool season broadleaf would be awesome if we could fit something like that in and it was successful.
right.
That would fit two niches for us there, but I haven't tried it yet. I asked around about seed. I kicked it
Hmm.
around this last year, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. So
Right,
it's
right,
something we may try at some point for sure. The
right,
canola, I
right.
think.
Yeah, I was on some ground this spring that was winter camelina up around Colby. I know there was some, or yeah, yeah, it was camelina. Yeah, and they plant it in like November, I think.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't, from what I understand, it can be finicky on establishment.
Yeah, I don't know anything about camelina.
Yeah,
We've seen a little bit of the canola around, but yeah, I mean, I know some guys down in South Central part and have some really good luck with sesame if you can find a market for
right,
it.
right, right. Yeah,
It's eating the drought pretty well, but uh, I don't know where the nearest market would be, but it's not close.
right, right, right. Well, kind of speaking of politics, what do you think the future of chemical use might be?
It's going to be interesting. Um, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Uh, this new administration is kind of a wild card. I don't, there's a lot of talk out there. It'll be interesting to see what does and doesn't get done. Um, there for a little bit when they were talking about Robert Kennedy being the Secretary of Ag. I thought, well, they'll probably put some of that stuff under, a pretty close microscope, and we may lose some tools there. And, as a producer, you don't ever want them to take any tools out of your toolbox if you can help it. But
Right,
we try to be, as judicious with that kind of stuff as we possibly can be. But there's times where you need to do some things that maybe you don't want to necessarily do, but you need that tool in your toolbox.
right,
And you think it's the best option out there, anyways. And so I don't know. I doubt it gets any easier to label stuff
right.
as time here. I'd be
Well,
surprised if that's the case.
I think it's going to take if we're going to start having maybe not banning the use, but maybe some more restrictions on the use. I
Uh,
think I think
that's already happening, I think, and I don't
it's
expect it to get any
well,
less restrictive.
I think agriculture is gonna we're gonna have to change how we're doing agriculture currently. Uh,
Yeah.
I think That's just my opinion. Like I
And that's nothing new. It's always been a changing deal,
right.
especially
Well, yeah, yeah.
in my lifetime it has anyway, so I assume it's always kind of been that way to a
Right.
certain extent.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not one of the things, oh, by God, this is the way we've always done it. No, we've only been doing it this way for about 40 years.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you want to open the book on politics here a little bit. The one that what concerns me maybe more than anything else on that front um, is foreign policy in general. We get, and you can be pro or con farm subsidy or
hmm.
whatever,
Right.
but it's there because of what foreign policy is. And my
Right.
biggest concern for ag in general is them trying to force change upon, take away some of those subsidies maybe without changing the underlying issue that why it's there in the first place.
Right.
Jerk the carpet out from underneath guys without that little bit of a safety net. And that's not going to be good for agriculture in general, I don't think. And I'm not saying we don't need to get rid of them because I think that should be the goal at some point. But
Hmm.
you got to change the farm policy and the market situation and all that
Right.
before you jerk the rug out from underneath guys, or it'll be a disaster. And that concerns me maybe more so than some of those other things,
Right.
honestly.
Right.
But,
Right.
you have very little control over that. So I try not to lose too much sleep, but
Right.
it's an underlying factor that, you know, things haven't been easy for, you hear stories of guys in the I states here in the last year raising the best crops they've ever raised and losing money.
Right.
Well,
Right.
it isn't very sustainable. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I look at it as we have an opportunity. We have a golden opportunity to actually hopefully change things for the better because I have a really hard time when people try to defend the current model
yeah,
when um, what was the population of Healy, Kansas in 1970 versus what is it
yeah.
today?
It peaked in the, I think it peaked in the late 60s. And, the county itself is probably a third of what it
Right.
was in
Right.
the late 60s.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is going to be the last year for school in Healy.
yep. Yep.
Smallest school in the state. This is it. Dighton, the other school, and they were a decent sized 2A when I was in school, and they're a small 1A now. I mean, it's
Yep.
just, and that's
Yep.
that's not unique to Lane County, and it's rural
Nope.
America in general. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a problem. We need to figure out how to get more people back on the land. Honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't know what the solution to that is, but the current model isn't
Yeah.
get big or get out. It's been the motto for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and I have no issue with big farms. I don't have the desire to farm 50,000 acres, but
Right.
I don't begrudge the guy that does, and good for them. I'm glad those opportunities are there for people who want to do it, but it's not necessarily good for rural America.
Right. Right. It's not good for the farmers. It's not good for the rural banks. It's not good for the rural equipment dealers.
Can't
Because
be good for individuals. It's not good for the community in general.
yeah, yeah, yep, yep, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I like I said, I'm hopeful. Again, I don't know what it looks like, but um, I just don't sit here and tell me that, oh, it's going to end agriculture as we know it. Well, we've only had agriculture as we've known it for, like I said, 40 years. I
Maybe,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
you look
It's
at,
possible.
look at look how rapidly the hog industry changed. I mean, it basically shifted overnight in what year was that in the 90s?
Yep,
When there was still lots of small hog producers.
yep,
Um, and it shifted to all confinement, all big operators, almost in a flash. Well, that's not normal. I mean, that's not historically normal. So why can't we go decentralize it again? And
we see the same thing with the feed yards out here.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
very, very few farmer feeders anymore.
yep,
I mean,
yep,
it's all, get big or get out. And I'm not a hater of the big guys. I have no
right,
problem. They, we got lots of feed yards in this area, and they're a great market for our grain, and they're
yep,
people. And that's not the issue. It's just, and they employ people and they do what they can, but
Yep.
they got to make a buck too, and they got to be
R-
efficient.
Yep.
So I don't know what the answer is either.
Right.
I would like to see us lean into regenerative agriculture because I think there's more pros than cons to that, but I don't know that I'm in favor of a top-down mandate to
Yeah.
speak. I don't think that'll work out very well.
No.
And
No.
that's the government's, and if you want to do incentives, I'm all right with that, but I don't mandates concern me. I don't want to see that by any
Right.
stretch. And
Right.
so yeah, it's going
Well,
to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting next few years, like they always are, I guess. We say this all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Just until they
just,
get the election year life, right? Until the next one.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's the first time there's actual, at least talk
seems to be
of,
a little more momentum than there has been.
yes, yes, of
Right?
some potentially truly structural change.
If they wisen up and get Jimmy Emmons and
That's
one of
right.
them one of them positions there in Washington D.C.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been all right in being the secretary or the undersecretary, but you know, I hope they put him somewhere because
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
he's well, Jimmy. He's a tremendous communicator and he's a farmer.
Yep.
He knows
Yep.
done it. He knows, I'd love to see him get in there and where he could affect some real change. I think that would be a good thing for agriculture. He's a meet you where you're at kind of guy too. I know.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure I don't want to put words in Jimmy's mouth, but I don't get the impression that he's a mandate kind of guy. I think he's
Right.
I don't know. I know but there's producers out there that they don't want to do the regenerative thing, and they're not in favor of some of those programs, and they got their reasons for it, and
Hmm.
I can argue with them. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, and somebody like Jimmy concerns some of those guys a little bit, but I don't think they have much to worry about there. I think he'd be great for us. And
Well,
there's
where
my stuff, Jimmy Emmons. So I hope somebody listens. But
that's yeah. So if any of you guys watch this and you go ahead and share this conversation, tag Donald Trump on it, tag JD Vance in it,
yeah,
got a real farmer from Western Kansas advocating to who would he'd like to see
a
to
real
see.
farmer from Western Oklahoma. Yeah,
Yes, exactly, exactly. To try actually get some structural changes, get something, change something,
yeah.
just something like not let's stop having this thing operate on
I'm
cruise
I'm just a
control.
fan for actual producers.
Yeah, right.
They're
Yes.
doing it, boots on the ground.
Yep.
You know, not the guy that family owns a farm necessarily. Not
Right.
that there's
Right.
wrong with that,
Right.
but let's have the guy that's done it be
Right.
somewhere where we help make some decisions. So
Right.
that,
Well, speaking of Jimmy, I guess we can talk a little bit about it since it's coming up and you're part of the organization. What's been I mean, you brought up No Till on the Plains. That was kind of one of the sparks to your change as far as your farming practices.
Mhm.
What's been your experience with No Till on the Plains?
Yeah, well, we started going to that conference. I think 2006 was the first one we went to. It was still in Salina then, and I've missed very few of them since. We tried to make it to all of them, and then I got on the board. See, this is my fourth year, so whatever that had been, and it's
2020,
been
2020,
2020. There you go. That's probably be
or 2021. If this is your fourth year, it'd be 2021, I
yeah.
guess. Yeah.
This will be my fourth conference since I've been on,
Okay.
anyways.
Okay.
Probably actually been on a little over 4 years, maybe now, but it's it's a good organization, do a good job, you know, educating. I think it's um it's spread into a kind of a multinational deal. I mean, it's a lot of years we have speakers from overseas somewhere come in and talk and give you a little bit different perspective on things. And it's not when I first started going, it was I don't know, 11, 1,200 people, I think, some of those years when I first started going in Salina, but it was kind of the only game in town then. There was nobody else doing this. And there's got to be quite a few other conferences out there, and most of them really good, and that's great. And but I think we still have a place out there and do a good job with it. And uh, it's coming up here in Wichita here towards the end of the month. Was it the should know this off the top of my head, is that we changed. It used to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and this year it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Um,
I'll tell you,
as we come,
21st, 22nd, 23rd.
well, that's it. That's what I was gonna be right. I just didn't say
Right,
it.
right.
Uh, so yeah, I encourage anybody to that's interested in this kind of stuff. If you've been there or not before, it's um, if I think you'll agree with me here probably, but there's a lot of value in the sessions and the speakers and that kind of stuff. There may be more value in the networking opportunities there. You get to go talk and meet people that might be from your area, which is awesome when you do, if you didn't know we're into that, or somewhere close, or somebody halfway across the country. But getting the opportunity to meet other people that are doing things is uh is pretty valuable. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I would venture to say I've got as much or more out of the conference over the years. Talking with somebody in the bar or whatever,
yeah.
you know, after hours, and just get a chance to pick somebody else's brain and make a contact and put
Yep,
their number in your phone, and someday you may need to talk to them, and it's
yeah,
that's been really valuable for me. It's
yeah.
I met Michael Thompson. Him and I've been friends now for several years. Uh, when I first kind of got going, kind of on an island out here, I was doing things that nobody else was doing, and he had been doing, and was relatively close. And there's several of those guys. Bryce, I met him after Michael, but he's even closer yet, and he's doing some really
Hmm.
neat stuff. It's been a really positive deal for our business for sure,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
no, that's
made some great friends over it too. But
yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's I always tell people, I say, you go to Notes on the Plains for the bar afterwards.
and if that's not your thing, there's just people. It's great. You could
You're-
go out and eat supper with somebody, and
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get a chance to eat. You
The
get
bar is the bar is almost metaphorical, but
yeah,
but
yeah,
it is that the networking and
absolutely.
I went to I think I went to Notes on the Plains was it 2014 or 2015 the first time. It was still in Salina. Um, and then I went back to it in 2022. I think it's 2022.
Twenty
And
21 was virtual, I think, and
probably. I think it was 2022. Um, because yeah, it should have been 2022, but
that was my first one on the board, I believe.
it was from 2014 to 2022. I would say the topics had evolved even
Yeah,
in that short span of time, and I'd gone to other conferences that weren't at the hotel, that weren't at a hotel, and having it all in one location.
that's really nice.
Yes, yes, because the networking happens that way. Because
Yep.
you're not, oh, we gotta leave. Where are you gonna go eat? Or where are you gonna go eat? Because half the time I end up eating at the bar because I keep on talking to
And yeah, and being
people.
multi-day, lends
Yes,
itself to that as well, for
yes,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
But it's one day you travel, you go, you got to get home. You don't get
right.
a chance to do some of those things unless
Yeah,
you take the time. And sometimes,
yes,
I know I'm this way. I just got to be forced to do it, and then there's no other way to do it. I got to stay the night because I got to be here. I want to be here tomorrow,
right.
and then you get a chance to talk to those folks. It's there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, like
Um,
I've I made contact with with Jorge earlier. I met him, and
or I met him
through it,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
through an I met him through Josh Lloyd, but I met Josh Lloyd. Had to travel clear out to Nick's place to meet him at a Notes on the Plains event,
Hey,
even
you're
though he's
not that
30
far
miles.
apart.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, even though we're 30 miles away or so, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I met him though. Made contact with um, Tom Martin from England and his father through No Till on the Plains by sitting down at the bar and
Yeah.
made contact with Jay Fuhrer by going on the bus tour. Made contact with you going on the bus tour. Made contact with several people going on the bus tour. I mean, yeah,
Those
it's
bus tours are really good too because you get a lot of travel time, a lot of
yes,
time to talk to folks. And
yeah. I mean, yeah.
I,
So yeah, I always tell people that if you are willing to go and put yourself out there at an event like Notes on the Plains, it it might sound cheesy to say it might change it could change your life, but I mean, I've made a lot of
good.
friends, a lot of contacts just by
Yeah.
going notes on the planes and being willing to talk and discuss with people, even though I'm just a small aspiring producer. I mean, I've never been treated lesser than because I'm not farming thousands or tens of thousands of
You'll
acres
find
over
all
here.
kinds there, and
Yes.
from all over this country and others. And
Yes.
it's really interesting to, how people do things. At least it is to me, how other people are doing things in other areas. And hey, can I apply that to my area? And, I'll have to change it, but maybe it'll work. And,
Right.
that's
Right.
that's the challenge, right? And that's what makes it fun. So
Right. Well,
I tell people all the time, I'm like, I've had very few original ideas in my life. Everything I do,
right.
I steal. I'm not that smart. So,
Right.
we just try to adapt with the good idea somebody else had from somewhere else to our
Right.
situation.
Right. Well, when you were talking about the compaction, with when you were grazing cattle, it made me think of the conversation I had with Tom Martin from England when first time he tried grazing a cover crop, he was grazing with mature ewes that probably weighed 150 to 200 pounds, and their soil type is a heavy clay soil, so it compacts easy. So he created a problem for himself because he grazed mature ewes at the wrong time of year. Uh, Instead of now, he grazes lambs at a different time of year, so they don't have the compaction. So it's like, so yeah, even though you and him are thousands of miles apart, you had the same issue.
Same problem.
Yep,
Yeah.
trying to do the right thing by the soil
Not that
health
many new
principles.
things under the sun. So it's
No,
been
exactly,
a problem
exactly.
or a solution for somebody else somewhere else before, probably.
Yes. And so it just goes to show that doesn't matter where you go, you run into the same problems. It's just context and the reasons how, why, and where. So,
Yep.
what's your favorite part about agriculture?
Probably for me, what I've enjoyed the most about it is the challenge. I like problem solving. I'm not sure I'm that good at it, but I enjoy the challenge of it. And there's plenty of that in this line of work. Um, I've enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the flexibility with my time.
Hmm.
I didn't do a very good job of that early on, but the last few years, I've um, taken advantage of that flexibility to do some things with my family that I had, that I might not be able to do if I was in some other line of business. Um, it's there's room for growth in it, I guess. Maybe now more so than any time in history. Um, what's the average age of the farmer in the U.S.? 60 something now, and
Yeah, what I've
somebody's
I've
going to
I've
have
been
to do
hearing for
this.
the last 10 years that it's been 59, 60 for the
Yeah, well,
last.
it's not getting younger.
Right,
Uh,
right.
That hasn't happened yet. At some point it may have to, but it doesn't always seem like there's that much opportunity out there, but it's out there.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you know, if you're the guy that wants to farm 50,000 acres, that opportunity is there for you. If you're the guy that doesn't, and you want to, you know, work on a few hundred acres and direct market or something, that opportunity for you. There's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, and you get to make it your own, I guess. And like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it, for sure. But I've enjoyed the challenge of it and the flexibility, and probably the two things that I like about it. And we get some heritage. Like I said, we've been doing this a long time. There's a little bit of pride in that. Doesn't make me any better farmer than anybody else, but
Right.
we've been able to survive out here in tough country for a lot of years.
Yep.
So
Your family history is either super tough or or super ignorant. One of the two,
fine
right?
line, a fine line
Yeah.
between dumb and tough.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, both sides of my dad's family come out here in the 1880s, left farm country in Illinois to do it. So
Oh.
dumb,
Yeah.
long history of that. So
Right. Well, is or do your kids, do they think that do they see themselves coming back or do they really know
that's
yet?
that's that's a good question. My daughter's started started school. She's majored in elementary education. I think that's where her heart's at. I don't think at this point that she probably has a ton of interest in coming back. That could change.
Right.
She maybe she does something silly and marries a farmer or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, my son, we're working through that process right now. Man, I guess he's probably a typical 17-year-old boy. He don't know what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I sure
Yeah.
I graduated college and didn't know what I wanted to do. So um, I think there's potential for him maybe to maybe want to come back. We're trying to. It's been my goal the last few years to evaluate that, I guess, and we have sat down and talked to it with the kids, um, and we'll continue to do that. But what I'm trying to do right now, in the meantime, it's not going to happen overnight. But my plan is to be able to maybe run this business, get this business in a situation where you can run it with 20 phone calls a month. You don't have to be here much or at all, and that way, if either one of them are interested in doing that and supplementing their income a little bit and
Hmm.
have that opportunity, that may be easier said than done, but that's kind of the goal we've looked at. It's why we're doing hiring more custom stuff done and some of those things. Trying to figure out if we can make that work or not. And I think it's doable. I mean,
Hmm.
there's give and take with everything.
Right.
You're gonna give up a little bit of income to do that, but
Yep.
uh, it might fit your lifestyle.
Yeah.
All right, do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I can tell you from personal experience. I mean, yeah, I didn't want to get rid of the sheep. But at the same time, it has been very nice not having to worry about livestock with
yeah,
four little ones and two family, two parents with full-time jobs and other things on the side. I mean, yeah, it's been nice. Just you want to go on a vacation, you can go on a vacation, and you don't really stress about much. So
shouldn't probably shouldn't admit to this, but when it iced up and snowed up here the year, I didn't leave the house for 2 days, and I was all
yeah,
right with it. Didn't have to go feed cats.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that didn't cost me any sleep at all. But
yeah, yeah. I mean,
so,
no, it's you gotta enjoy the livestock
yeah, and
and
I know lots of guys who are just the opposite. They rather go spend all their days with the livestock, and they just hate sitting on a tractor or doing anything
right,
like that. So, there's all types out there, and
yeah.
good things is for
Yeah,
sure.
my dilemma is, yeah, I'd rather go spend my time with livestock than tractor, but I also want to be able to go on a vacation when I want to go on a
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah,
So, yeah, that's so it's a balancing act. And
it is. And I've got to this point where I try to focus on the things that, like I said, that I'm either good at or that I
right,
enjoy, and then
right.
we hire out some of the other. And
Well, I mean, it's great that you've reached that point in life that you've made that decision, and I mean, you're working towards basically making it to where your business is structured that way. That yeah, you want to go chase the kids playing doing sports, you can go do it, and the business is still going to run on its own and be perfectly fine. And you're still doing a good job if you're still doing a good job managing your farm, and you're getting the livestock integration, and you're not having to do it. And I mean, yeah,
that part's been huge for us was
right.
not having to deal with the livestock directly myself, and um, that I have no regrets about at all. That's worked out okay, for sure. We we're still running the business, and then there's part of me that thinks it'd be a financially sound plan to sell some of this grass, um, because um, the ROI on it is not spectacular, especially
Hmm.
when you do it this way.
Hmm.
But if you ever tried to sell land before, that's a really hard thing to do. So we haven't done it, but you tell yourself not to be emotional about it, but then you are. So
Right, right. Well, I mean, it's it's good that you are though at the same time.
yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing one way or the other. It
Yeah.
at least lets you pause and take full stock of the situation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things, whatever you sell it for, you'll never get it back. More than likely, you'll never get it back cheaper than
No,
what you sold it
no,
for.
that's
So,
that's 100% fact for sure. Yeah. And I got a father and a son that would disown me because
yeah.
they like to go down there and got some pawns on it and some things like that. And so probably not happening anytime soon,
Right.
but
Right. Yeah. No, no, like I
like
said, yeah, that's
we always try to keep all the options on the table. I try not to have too many sacred cows if I can help it. And
Right.
easier said than done a lot sometimes, but
Right. Right. No, like I said, it's completely understandable. It's you don't want everything to just be again, inputs and outputs. I
yeah.
mean, it's important. I feel like it's important to balance that because it tends to reflect in a person's character. Um, if things do matter, not everything is just a cold-hearted financial based decision. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
no, I think you're right. I think there's a balance there. I think you gotta strike on it for sure. But I think that sometimes we can get ourselves in trouble by
it,
allowing us to not make the right decision at the
right,
right time.
right.
Well, I know I've
Uh,
done it with other things, not necessarily the land deal, but other things over the years where you didn't pull the trigger when you should have pulled the trigger, and because it was an emotional deal or something, and that's part of it.
yeah, yeah,
For sure.
yep. No, and I'm sure, like you said, I hear it all the time that ranching for profit is such a valuable
It was
tool.
for us, for sure. Yeah, 100%. It really changed how we approached things ever since. It was a really good program for us. But I don't come from any kind of a business background other than what I've picked
Right,
up years, and I got a really good banker, and I've learned a lot from him. But um, yeah, it really changed my perspective on the business and just things in general. Really, I mean, we were
right,
stuck in a rut. The stress level was super high. It was getting to be where it wasn't very much fun anymore, and so we stepped back and took a look at it, and
hmm
are trying to improve it anyways all the time. So yeah,
I would say there's a lot of stress level out there in agriculture right now.
I think
Um,
right now it's tough in a lot of
yeah,
places. Yeah.
yeah, and I understand not everyone's got the time or the money to go and do something like ranching for profit.
It's
But
commitment.
again, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I put it off for years because of that.
Because what does it cost? 1,000, 1,200 bucks. I mean, I know
You
it's
know,
not cheap.
it's they raised the price on it. I don't know exactly what it is anymore, but when people have asked me that before, I said it's probably going to cost you $4,000 or $5,000 to go do it
Right,
by the time you travel and spend
right,
7, 8, 9 days, whatever. I think it was 10 or 11 total for me because I took it in Boise, Idaho, and drove out there myself, and so it was 2 days out, 2 days
right,
back.
right,
Great drive. Got to see country I've never been through before. I enjoyed that. And that's part of the reason I did it. I was lined up to do it in Oklahoma City, and COVID hit, and they canceled it. And, um, when I was looking through it again, I'm like, Boise, Idaho, never been up there. So,
right,
and it was
right,
really neat experience, the school, because most of the people were relatively local to that Northwest region, anyways, and talk about a completely different way of doing things.
right, right.
There's a lot of like BLM leases, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking 1,000 acre stuff. We're talking
Yeah,
100,000.
yeah.
Uh, you kick them out. You kick them out in the spring, and then go back and see how many you can find in the fall. I mean, it's completely different animal. It was really fascinating to me for sure to
Right,
do that. It was a relatively small class because COVID was still a thing, but it was a really good experience. And we got involved in the EL program. We did that for 3 or 4 years, and I learned a lot. Met a lot of really good people. Again, networked with some people that when you got a problem, now I know I got somebody I can call, and
right.
so again, a lot of value in that.
Yeah,
A lot.
yeah. And like I said, right now, I understand things are tough, and yeah, if you can't make it to something like a ranching for profit, go to one of these conferences.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. No matter what it is, there's a lot of good ones out there.
yeah.
Education, uh, it, it's probably more time than money for most folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing is a limiting factor, but I always try to tell myself to never quit learning anyway. So
Right, right.
I tell the kids that. So I guess I better try to learn
Yeah.
it a little,
I mean,
and I enjoy it.
well, and I don't know about you, but I always feel a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, energized after
Yeah,
going to a conference as far as
100%.
mentally, maybe not physically. Physically, it's like, oh God,
Get
gotta
you fired
get
back up again. You get beat down
yes.
all year long, and you're getting ready to go in the spring. Like, oh, here we go again. And,
Yeah.
you go listen to listens to folks that are doing some good things, and yeah, refocus you and fires you up for the year. 100%. Always
Yes.
me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
I'm
like I
out of that
said.
deal with a list as long as your leg of things you're going to do, and then you do one of them if you're lucky. You know, it's
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
it's it, it's good. You know, it gets you fired back up and gets you focused, ready to go again. And
Yeah. 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 Because the passion is important.
yeah, yeah, it's no fun to hate getting up every morning and going to work, right? No matter what you
Right.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, but yeah, like I said, whether you're going to, I think National No-Till just happened,
I've never went
or
to that one. You ever been to that
yeah,
one?
no, I have not. I think it was this week though. I think that was going on this week. But I know there's Living Soils. If you look them up on Facebook, they're doing a little event up in Omaha. Would be a great event to go to. It just falls too close to No Till on the Plains, which is the next week. And then High Plains,
Yeah.
was it High Plains?
TCPA there. Yeah.
Yeah, in Burlington.
Burlington.
High Plains No
Yeah.
Till Conference. That's what I'm
I've
looking
been
for.
to that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that'll be in what, February, I think, something
Yeah,
like
it's first
that.
week of February usually. It's I try to
Yeah,
make that one as much as I can. It's, if you're in an arid environment guy, there's, that's a good one for sure.
yeah, but
I always took the approach and, I try to go listen to guys in farther western Kansas or eastern Colorado. Like if they can do it, then I have no excuse.
right,
So,
right. But
well,
yeah,
go look
get
at a guy that's doing it in a 10-inch rainfall environment. I better quit complaining about 20. So
right, right. But yeah,
it's not very often too. We go somewhere where we're the high rainfall guy. That's
right,
what it was in Boise though.
right,
Most of those guys were on the wrong side of the mountains. They were 8, 10-inch rainfall places. And I'm like,
right.
that's what I told them. I stood up and introduced myself. I said, not very often. I'm the high rainfall guy.
Yeah.
Rude.
Well, you don't know how tough we got it where I'm at. You might be in the wrong room for that. Is what you're
It
saying?
always get worse. That's right.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, go find you a conference.
Yeah. Or
Even if
two.
it's a yeah, or even if it's a
Yeah.
1 day workshop. Check out Kansas Soil Health Alliance if you're in Kansas.
Yeah. They do a
Um,
lot of stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
They got a lot of things
they got
going
a
on all the
page.
time.
Um, yeah, and there's yeah, check like I said, check out your different organizations. Just do a
Yeah.
Google search. We live in a great time as far as finding information
Oh,
and
yeah. I don't know about you. I assume you probably do it too, since we're on it right now. But YouTube, what a resource, right?
I'm a YouTube junkie.
YouTube University, man. There's nothing you can
Yes.
learn, and some of it's even
Yes.
right. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
crazy thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But nothing beats getting to connect with people.
No, you look at that absolutely that networking deal, like we said, is it's half of it at least.
Yes. Yes, yes, absolutely. Because establishing these contacts when I'm driving up and down the road every day, well, I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah,
I'll ring Ben up or
yeah.
ring someone up and take up way too much of their time that they should be
No,
doing
that's
something
great.
else. And
I love that stuff, man. That's another thing that gets you focused and get you fired back up. Talking to
yes,
somebody else that's fired up about something. Or
yes,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely right. Is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to cover or mention or topic you wanted to talk about real quick type of thing?
I don't know. We hit a lot of things there. It's not for quite the Joe Rogan length yet, but we've been at this a little bit, so that's good.
Yeah,
Time
I
flies when you're having fun.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, it's almost 4. I bet we're at an hour and a half. So
yeah,
yeah,
got to be getting close. Yeah,
yeah. I would love to be able to do like a do this in person with guys,
yeah.
but I also at the same time though, it would take a lot of practice because talking to someone in person is different than talking just slightly disconnected. I don't know.
Coordinating people, traveling, doing things like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But if anybody wants to get a hold of you, you got any contact info you want to put out there to share with people?
Yeah, you can reach me through email. I get most of them. Uh, that's lowercase BAC290 at yahoo.com. That's as good a way as any to get a hold of me. And I always try to answer people when they reach out. And if you don't get kicked to junk mail, which
Yeah.
all from time to time, but most of the time they don't. And so um, If you try that and it don't work, try again. But uh, I try to get back to people because I always enjoy trying to share what we've learned, and then it never fails. Somebody calls you, I got something I'm going to learn from you too. So
Right, right,
I get it's a little bit selfish in that regard. I'll share what I got with you, and hopefully you share a little back with
right,
me, and
right.
it
Oh, trust me.
almost always happens that way. So
Right. Well, trust me. That's why I do this is so I can learn because it's
yeah, in fact,
it's.
I'm sure I usually get more out of it than they get from me. So, but for
But
sure.
no, are you on any kind of social media at all, LinkedIn or anything
I
like
don't
that?
really. I
Okay.
don't. I should. I guess I'm just old enough, and
Yeah.
I never got warmed up to that very good. I wish I probably should. I wish I was better at it. I just not. It's not my thing, really. I'm not
You're
super
you're
comfortable
you're
with it. I
you're
read a lot of it.
right.
I spend a fair amount of time on X, reading news, reading what other guys like you and folks are doing out there. But I'm not much of a poster. But I'll sure talk to you on the phone or trade some
You're
emails.
you're a typical what is the generation before
I'm
millennials?
Generation X.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're typical Gen X that you're gonna do
yeah.
the bare minimum.
We just gotta want to be
Yeah.
a deal over here in the corner.
Yeah. You just missed out on that being that millennial. Yeah,
Yep, not a millennial. By
yeah.
missed it by a couple of years. So
Because what were you, 79?
allows me to make fun of you guys, but
Ah,
for better or for worse. But no, you millennials and then Z all above are they're doing some great things, and
no.
so we complain about it just because older generations always complain about younger
Oh
generations.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. My oldest
Tried and
brother,
true ritual.
my oldest brother tries to say, "Oh damn millennials." It's like you do realize you're a millennial, like right? Like he was born in 85. It's like yeah,
Yeah,
you're a
you're right
millennial.
there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause what year were you born?
I
79
was
or
born in
80?
'79, so
Okay,
I
so yeah, you
January '79. So I'm
yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, you had a little
swear
wiggle
it.
room. Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, no, it'll be good. Yeah, if you run into Ben, you're down at Notes on the Plains, you watch this, and you
Yeah.
run into him. If this gets out before then, I don't know. I'll probably post one of these videos today and post the other one next week, probably space it out. But yeah,
Yeah, we're getting close there, aren't we? So,
don't hesitate to go and bug him and
yeah.
ask for his autograph. So
Well, if you haven't signed up for it yet, don't hesitate to go do it. I think it's going to be a good conference again this year.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
last couple, well, I feel good about all the ones I've been involved with. And we try to keep it new and fresh the best we can and not recycle people as too often. So people are getting some new stuff all the time. And
right,
I think it's going to be a good conference again this year. So
yeah,
at the
yep.
time, come see us down in Wichita for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. Feel free to share it. And yeah, if you want his email or his phone number, just get a hold of me here. I'll kind of vet who I give out that information to. But so no,
I
like
talked to about anybody. So,
yeah. So nope. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day today, Ben. And
enjoyed it.
yeah,
Thanks for having me.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. And we'll see if we can't do another one of these sooner rather than later. So thanks, guys.